Today, I'm going to be speaking with Tara Reed. Tara was my massage instructor back in 2014 when I went to massage school, and I've taken several classes with her since. But really, it's her perspective on life that has really inspired me. She is a teacher. She's a healer. She's gone through the experience of having cancer and coming out the other side of it with even more wisdom to share. So I'm really excited to have her here today. And I just want to welcome you, Tara. Thank you so much for coming on. I just would love to hear and share with those watching your journey, becoming a massage teacher and acupuncturist and going through cancer and just anything that you have to share that might inspire others, I suppose. I mean, it's inspired me for years. So I'll let you come here.
Introduction.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me. I just feel, I guess I could say I feel honored that you would want to hear from me. So I appreciate that. So I'll start with what got me into massage. That was first for me. In high school, I remember having an interest in massage. I used to run track. Well, I didn't really run track. I had to run because it was required.
Mm-hmm.
But I threw shot put and discus. I was not a runner, but I did run the mile because that you had to run if you wanted to be in track. And my one of my coaches had found a massage therapist that would do like a $5 sports massage. Well, I never went because I just didn't really have the appreciation for massage back then, but it some curiosity. And I started thinking about being a massage therapist. And I didn't know really where it came from other than that was the only introduction. There was like one massage therapist in the town that I knew of. Maybe there were two, I don't know, but it was a small town. And I remember mentioning it to my grandmother, and she said, we have to be careful with that because some people think that's something else. And I knew she meant if you're going to be a massage therapist, you got to be clear that you're doing therapy and not some other, yeah, or whatever. And I was just like, oh, and then I just left that alone for about 10 years. And then in my mid to late 20s, I guess, I went and visited the school, but I was working full time in the day and they only had a day program. And I couldn't see how to, make as much money I was making without a college degree or any other like particular skill set. It's just, I had just moved up in this company from, entry level and I'm making like $13 an hour, which was a lot at that time for my age and what was going on in the world. And giving that up to go to like an $8 job would have been really difficult. And so I waited and then, I left that job. I actually lost that job. And it was a gift because then I went to the massage school and I had worked at a restaurant as a server for a while before doing that. And there was a lady there that I worked with who also worked at the school, but I didn't know that. So when I walked in the school, her name was Kristen. She's like, hey, Tara. I was like, hey. And she goes, you've been here before, right? I was like, yeah. And she had toured me before, but I really didn't put it together. She's like, tour? You need another tour? I was like, no. She's like, sit down. Let's get you signed up. And that was the start of it.
Wow.
When I went, it was a smaller campus. And then I didn't know that I wanted to be a teacher. I massaged from 2005 till 2007. And I mean, I still massage, but that's when I started acupuncture school.
Mm-hmm.
And I just massaged a little on the side during that. And I had a job with a chair massage company that I did for 6 years. So I did that my duration of my acupuncture training and continued on a few more years after that until I sort of stepped back from massage. And then it was just kind of here and there and a little alongside my acupuncture practice a little bit. Mm-hmm. And I sort of retired from massage. Okay.
Retired from practicing it or from teaching it as well?
I would say practicing because I do teach Reiki classes and, that's kind of as far as the legal aspect goes, the Florida Department of Massage requires somebody to have a massage license to do Reiki.
Right.
Right now I'm keeping it, but there's a chance I'll let my license go because my acupuncture license should cover that.
Well, one thing that I always found very different about you and your teaching style and just the way that you show up in life and present yourself is that you always speak with this very calm, very confident demeanor. Like very few people kind of bring that sense of peace with them everywhere, it seems, the way that you have. And even talking just now, I can feel like my energy changed based on your energy. I just always found that very inspiring, that you could bring that with you in everything that you did, not just, we call it the spa voice. Like as soon as you go into the massage room, all of a sudden you have this, please lay down, this suddenly you switch over to a new voice, but you kind of bring that with you throughout your life and everything that you do.
Wow. Thank you. I think I needed to hear that because I don't really think of myself that way. I had a colleague, actually part of why I occur as calm all the time to people is because I did this program. It was like a 3-day program, and it was very life-changing. And I did that before I became a teacher. I did it in late 2009, and it was like a massive turning point in my life. 2009 was my last semester studying Chinese medicine. And so that's the part, right? 2007, 8, and 9. And in 2009, I did that course. And I went on to do other courses with that company. I would just call it a world-class leadership company. My experience of that first class that I took was just so amazing. It was probably where I really came to recognize ego. And they don't use the terms ego. I'm using that term because that's a common term than what they use. But I got to see that I had sort of created a facade or an identity. And this is what I see, 12 years later, looking back, so at the time I didn't see all this. This is after, working this technology and blending it with who I am and my own spiritual growth that I can look back and see this. And what it did for me was I'm like matured overnight in a way, because I got to see that certain things that I thought about life and myself were simply untrue. I had created them in order to survive certain situations. And so when I stepped into being a teacher, I was able to shed this, I don't even know what to call it. The facade makes us think that something is wrong. And the facade is what the ego creates, right? The ego creates this facade. And it lives like, we live like this facade is who we are until we die or until we wake up to it. Some people spend their whole lives stuck in that. And a glimpse of the truth, which is that's a facade. And I was able to, especially now, so many years later, and after cancer, it's become so clear that the facade is multi-layered and has all these different pieces to it. It's like a 1,000-piece puzzle.
Right.
Let's say that when I did that 3-day course, I discovered 10 pieces of the puzzle. Okay. And 10 years later, maybe I've discovered 100 or a few hundred. And so it leaves, 4 or 5, 700 more pieces, however many I've discovered and worked with, to discover further. And so I guess what I got out of that course and what I brought into teaching was there's nothing wrong with me.
Right.
And we live our lives like there's something wrong with us. And it's not in the front of your mind. It's in the back. And it's whispering all the time. Like being nervous in front of a group. Sometimes I get nervous in front of a group. And I've just done it so much that I'm able to occur, even when I'm nervous, as calm. And when I did this leadership program, I went and actually did a program to get training to be in leadership within their program. And then I coached that program. I coached it time. So I was just kind of immersed in this technology or this view and philosophy for like 2 years. And at some point, my coach, she came to me and said, you always seem so calm. I get really just anxious in some situations. Can I come over and just hold your arm? If I get like, and I was like, yeah, like I was surprised that I was that somebody.
Yeah.
And we just had a lot going on, and we were trying to solve problems and help these people that we were coaching, because we looked at it like when they take this program, they get their life. Like whatever it is for them in life, they're going to get it in 7 months. And that's a big commitment.
Yeah.
We had it that people's lives are on the line in the sense of they can literally become whoever they say that they are out of this program. Like really powerful.
Kind of like who they choose to be.
And she came over one time and just looked at me, and she held my arm, and we just like went back to like listening and doing whatever we were doing. And then she like squeezed my arm and walked away. And later she was like, thank you so much. And later I learned that there's some people, like if you look at the spiritual part, there's some people that are here and their job is simply to hold space.
Mm-hmm.
And Chrissy and I both read this book. Chrissy's my wife. And she read that and she goes, "You're that. That's you." And I was like, "Really?" Because I thought maybe, and I just didn't really know. And she was like, "Yeah, that's totally you." She's like, "That is part of your job as just a being here on earth at this time."
Do you feel like with that program that you become who you choose to be or who you already are? Or is that understanding?
You already are. And in some contexts, the coaching would sound like what you choose, not like just what you choose to be. But when you start to shed that facade, who you really are comes through, and people start to discover like, "Hey, I actually wanted to do this my whole life, but I went this other way because other people expected it."
Yeah.
Or thought I should. As I watched a movie and it told me that it was this way, and the timing of the movie, I look back and I go, some people say I watched a movie and it gave me an impression of how a man should be or how a woman should be.
Right.
The timing of it, I suppose, it's like they're maybe coming into that part of their life, maybe as a teenager, or something happened in their life and it's made them like consider, what they're supposed to do. And so the movie comes at this perfect timing and they're like, "Oh, that's what I'm supposed to do." And they just adopt that
right
as it's going to be. And it's fake. It's false. They can trick your life and be beneficial through your life. But if it becomes to where it's not beneficial, that's when looking at it and discovering it is helpful. Because
throughout my life, I've definitely based everything on movies to a fault. It's
wow, yeah.
very
So
true.
that's okay. So thanks, angels, for giving me that example.
For sure.
Yeah. And, there's things that I created when I was young. And, through the experience of cancer, I looked back and I really went at those things and was able to purge some stuff. And it was really, really powerful. And I'll get to that, at whatever point you want to talk about that. But I'll stop now and see if you have any questions.
Yeah, I am curious how you perceive your experience going through cancer, because one of the things that I learned from you in school was that like disease, like we always just use this word without really thinking it through. And that it's dis-ease, like being not at ease, not at balance. But you, to me, always stood out as someone who would be very balanced, someone who knows about health and your body and how it works. And so part of me was thinking, it was almost like earth shattering to me that someone so balanced would go through something like that. And so I guess I wonder if you think there was a reason that you went through it, or if that's not how it works.
How it works.
Perspective, I guess.
Yeah. So first, I'll just say it came as a shock to pretty much everyone, including me. And I'll just explain the process for anybody who maybe is going through it or, got shocked also by the diagnosis. And I don't think anyone gets a cancer diagnosis and doesn't experience some level of emotional shock, even if they're expecting the possibility of it, because maybe someone's in their family and they know that or something like that. So my first symptom was just some digestive disturbance, and it wasn't unfamiliar. It's stuff that I had experienced before, but it lasted longer. And I would say normally I might experience for 3 or 4 days something similar. But this went on for like 3 weeks. And probably I would have paid more attention, but I was so busy at the time. I was working 6 days a week. And I say that, but it wasn't like 8 hours a day. It was more than 48 hours in a week. I'm running a practice. I'm trying to grow it. Mm-hmm. I'm teaching 3 days a week, 8 hours a day. And as a teacher, there's always outside work. And as a business owner, there's outside work. And so the hours that you spend doing the thing that you do are just the hours where you're face to face with people. And then there's what's going on in the background, which is managing your business, paying your business's bills, filling inventory, making sure you have what you need, following up with patients, all that stuff that happens outside of the treatment time. Mm-hmm. Instructor, of course, you have class prep, grading, submitting grades and stuff like that. And so I would say I was probably working easily 60 hours most weeks. And, I have small children. At the time, my son was 5 and my daughter was 18 months. And so when the symptom came about, I just was like, oh, whatever. I mean, I just ate some fatty food this week and maybe that upset my stomach. And then 3 weeks goes by, like blink your eyes. And I'm like, this has been going on for too long. Something else is going on. So I started looking And then a couple of weeks later, so maybe 5 or 6 weeks in, I palpated my abdomen and it felt firm at the upper abdomen. And I thought, okay, that's really unusual. It shouldn't be this firm. It felt almost like something was flat in there and anchored. Mm-hmm. And I'm explaining that because later I felt something that was different. And then a couple weeks later, well, I would say that, so at the 6-week mark, I'm at the point where I'm telling my wife, I need to find a Western primary care doctor, because I need a referral for somebody to look at this. And in that time frame, she's polling, people in her Crunchy Mama group on Facebook, and I'm meeting with my friend who has been through illness for many years and healed herself spiritually. I met with her, and she very gently said, have you had a sonogram or CT or anything? And I didn't need her to say, you need to go have that done, because she conveyed that to me with so much love that I just knew that it's time to get something. I need to be more diligent about this. Even though I was like crazy busy, I was just like, we need to stop and take a look. Well, we talked, and her work is very spiritual. It's like this, we're on Zoom and she's feeling into energy and she's telling me how to meditate and guiding me. And well, actually, she was one of the main people who helped me through this process. And so that's maybe 10 days before I went in the hospital. And then the last week before I went in the hospital, on Tuesday, I said, you know what? I'm just going to take some Prilosec, because I've had acid reflux in the past. And gallbladder might be involved. So I'm going to make an herbal formula. In case people don't know, Chinese practitioners are highly trained in herbs as well, not just acupuncture. And so I made this herbal formula, a very traditional one. I took it. By Friday, I was feeling tremendously better. And I was starting a spiritual class on Friday. That was 3 days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And I was like, okay, maybe I figured it out. Meanwhile, there's a mass in my abdomen that I can feel. I don't know why I dismissed that, but I did. The doctor is the worst patient. And so I go to spiritual class, and it's amazing. We're doing this crazy cool meditation, like going up dimensionally. I mean, it's like right on par with what I'm after. Yeah. Learn how to do all these healing techniques for people. And by Saturday, I was feeling a little bit worse. Like I didn't really feel like eating, and I was kind of having this discomfort come back into my abdomen. Sunday, there was a session where we were trading with others. It's in the training class, the students treat each other. And I was supposed to be flat, and I couldn't. And so I sat recumbent, for this process, and it was still uncomfortable. And by the time I got home, it was probably like 7 or 8 p.m. I ate a little bit, and then I went to do acupuncture, which I had been doing probably twice a day up until that point, which is a lot of acupuncture, by the way. Acupuncture, a treatment is one dose. Mostly, even in an acute situation, we would say 3 times a week would be fine. There's some situations where every day is ideal. The Western model of acupuncture isn't set up that way, but in other countries it is set up where it's affordable and somebody could come and pay daily to get treated for a shoulder injury or a sprained ankle or something. And in a week, it's over, like totally healed, not just better. So me doing acupuncture twice a day to mitigate the discomfort I was having, I knew that I had to do something. And there was a night, probably a few nights prior to the night I went in the hospital, that I talked to my wife and I said, this is wearing on me. Something's really wrong with my body. This mass isn't changing no matter what herbs I take. Make sure I do. It is not changing. In fact, I think it's bigger or harder. And at this point, it was distinct. It was no longer flat feeling. I could feel a shape, so I knew it had grown. And so that 10 days from going maybe 2 weeks of like being like, wow, my abdomen is firm, to like a distinct shape. And I couldn't feel the whole thing. It was behind my organs. And that was part of what tricked me. Is I know that malignant cancers grow not in a smooth shape. A cancer grows in a fairly smooth shape. Maybe not always, but it was smooth most of the time what I was palpating. And I was like, okay, maybe it's an impacted intestine or something like that. And I just kept going to all these other things and never considered cancer. But that night that I came home, didn't really feel like eating, and I did acupuncture. I couldn't even sit for the acupuncture. I put the needles in and I was like, I got to get up. And I went to my wife. It was probably 10 p.m. at that point, maybe 11. And I just went in and said, I think I'm going to go to the hospital tonight. I said, we didn't have any luck finding a doctor. I really don't want to wait. I'm in pain. And the pain was pretty high up, but I knew that it was below my diaphragm because of where everything was. The mass is here in my abdomen. Mm-hmm. I know lymph nodes run, and I was suspecting that perhaps something had spread upward or grew in a way that was touching a nerve, because it felt like fire and ice kind of radiating from here, like really painful. Like if you could imagine a nerve, getting rubbed with sandpaper, I would say the best explanation.
I can imagine a lot of nerve pain, unfortunately, because I've experienced it. But
and I've had 10 out of 10 pain before, but it's intermittent, like back pain when maybe my vertebrae touches a nerve, when I haven't been taking care of myself. I need a chiropractic adjustment, a massage, and voila, I'm better. Mm-hmm. But it would be intermittent. This was not an intermittent pain. It was constant. And I was just like, I can't even sit still. And when we talked about, okay, if you go to the ER, maybe it's better to go on the shift change in a few hours, early morning. And I said, well, I'll try to wait, but I really don't think I'm going to. So I got a little bag ready. I got my jacket, put my shoes out, and I sat on my couch and fell asleep for maybe an hour, woke up, changed positions, fell asleep again, not for very long, woke up, and I was like, I just can't, I'm going in. And it was 3:30 in the morning when I got there. And through the whole experience, there was divine intervention, like no doubt about it, including that just maybe 3 weeks before I went to the hospital, my family got on Medicaid, which I never in my life wanted. And even at the time that I was getting material from the government saying my daughter was on Medicaid, I was like, why is we didn't sign up or anything. Like, why is she on Medicaid? Use it for all of 2020. We didn't even use it. We were going to a special doctor that was a concierge. We paid a monthly fee to have him, be available, and the type of doctor, type of pediatrician he was. We wanted that. And then 2021 came around, and my son needed some dental work. And I was like, everywhere we call, it's like so expensive. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to look into this Medicaid thing. I'm just going to fill it out, see what happens, so that maybe that can get covered. His dental work, that'll get covered. And so I filled it out, and no kidding, like 3 weeks before I went in the hospital, everybody in my family had Medicaid. And I just see that as divine intervention. Like, why did my curiosity get piqued at that time to have enough time for that to get all done? Because it takes weeks to get that completed.
You happen to have it when you needed it.
Yeah. And so that was one of the things I put in my bag, was the paper that I got that said I have Medicaid, because I have no card. I don't even have a card yet, And so I go to the hospital and I check in. I tell them I have Medicaid, and I can't sit down. It's too uncomfortable. So I just pace. I'm pacing back and forth. And I was probably there for maybe 45 minutes before I got pulled in for the intake. But just before I went for my intake, I did this spiritual thing that I was taught years ago from the same lady that I had just taken this class with. And it's called Calling Upon. And basically it's like calling upon angels, but it's physical. Like my hands go up in the air and they come down. It's really obvious I'm doing something, And so I was like, I'm going to go down this hallway right here near the bathroom where there's nobody that can see me. And I'm going to call on my angels. Mm-hmm. Basically prayed to have an incredible medical team and to be at peace, because I knew at this point, something is really wrong. I can't ignore it anymore. And I think at that point, I was starting to consider what I had dismissed so frequently, is that possibly this is a growth. Maybe it's cancer. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's pancreatitis. Maybe it's my gallbladder. All these maybes, but I'm about to find out. And no kidding, I'm pacing. I walk back one time and I go back down that same hallway, and a lady is coming to go to the bathroom. And she asked me, do I know the sinner's prayer? But we have masks on, and I have no idea what she said. And so I ask her again, and I still can't make out what she's saying. So I think I must not know this prayer. Mm-hmm. So I said, I'm sorry, I don't think I know it. And she went into the bathroom, and I kept walking. And I thought, is she talking about the Lord's Prayer? And I said it in my head to make sure I knew it. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, that whole prayer. And I was like, I'm going to go wait for her. And I waited for her to come out of the bathroom. And I said, it might be called the Lord's Prayer. Does it start like this? And she said, yes. Will you pray it so I can pray it? I was like, yes. Mm-hmm. And I had a jacket pocket, and I said every line, and she said every line. And at the end, she said, thank you so much. And I felt this energy come through me down to my hands, hot. And I was like, I don't want to look weird, because this is for her. I know it's for her. Mm-hmm. So I said, God bless you, and held my hands up, because people aren't touching each other. It's era of COVID, And I was just like, God bless you. And I just let that flow to her. And I was just like, that was my angels telling me we're here. Mm-hmm. And I knew it gave me peace. And next thing you know, I got called in for the intake, and the nurse was like, hey, have a seat. Tell us what's going on. I mean, her personality was so amazing. And my experience with Western medicine is very limited because I would choose natural medicine in most cases. And I did what I could with natural medicine before I went to the hospital, but it wasn't enough. Sometimes you need more, and I know that.
Yeah.
And I happened to mention that I've been doing acupuncture to mitigate the pain because I'm explaining to her I have something in my abdomen. I have some symptoms that are gallbladder, I have symptoms that point to pancreas, and I have this pain. And I've been using acupuncture. I said, I don't know what you think about acupuncture. She goes, oh no, my mom doesn't have to take high blood pressure medication because of acupuncture. She's been free of that for 3 years. So yeah, we like acupuncture around here. And I was just like, thank you.
Great. Thank you.
It's like, I really did get a really good medical team the whole way through, like amazing. I never had anybody that was dismissive. I never had anybody that didn't listen.
Mm-hmm.
They always fulfilled on what I would expect or want in this situation.
Yeah.
So that was the experience of getting into the hospital. And I lost track of your question.
That's okay. I think it was along the lines of like, also like, why do you think it happened? If you've even come to a reason for that, and with, like you say, all this about acupuncture and herbs, and yet, there is finding that balance between when do you do Western medicine and when do you do more natural, like Chinese medicine, things like that.
Yeah, I had my friend that was sick for a long time. She asked me one time, "What do you think you would do?" I said, "Well, it's hypothetical, so I don't actually know. Like, if I got really sick, what would I do?" I said, "It's hypothetical, so I don't actually know. I think I would try natural medicine first, and then if it did work, I would definitely do Western. You need scans inside. Sometimes you need medication."
Mm-hmm.
Just in a situation where it was very difficult to be diagnosed. And even when she was diagnosed, it was still difficult to treat. It was one of these elusive, hidden illnesses. And when I talked to her in the hospital, I actually said, "Do you remember that asking me that?" And she's like, "I think so." And I said, "I did try natural medicine first." She said, "I bet you did." And
but it sounds like you also listened to your body when you're like, you know what? No, I just have to go, and I have to go now.
Yeah. And why do I think it happens? So there's layers of a person. There's the physical, which is where most people live, and this is where our belief system lies. And we don't really look too much to the mind and emotion and spiritual part. But for me, I look at a human being as there's spirit, there's mental, emotional, and there's physical. And so all those levels have to be addressed for true health. And I definitely wasn't taking care of the physical. And I had an experience from my youth. When I was in 8th grade, this kid bullied me, which, now we know that type of bullying is really verbal abuse. And he was pretty relentless. He's every single day that I rode the bus home, he would find me and just say nasty things to me. And, I could fault him, and I did for a while. Even in this process of healing, I went through a phase of like retaliating, like mentally in my mind. Mm-hmm. And kind of like guidance. I used Louise Hay's book, You Can Heal Your Life, throughout the beginning of the process. And I highly recommend it because her way is so gentle, yet it allows you to do what you need to do. And she said, some people need to retaliate. So go through that in your mind, do what you need to do, and then let it go. And so I did that. I imagined pepper spraying everybody on the bus. And I imagined also later, once I got through that phase of like, I could have gone to an administrator at the school. I could have been more clear with my parents, like how bad this is. It's not just picking on me. This kid is mean, like really viciously mean to me. Mm-hmm. Part of trauma is that nobody shows up. And so when somebody experiences a trauma, but somebody shows up for them, there's a different impact than if nobody shows up. So once I learned that, which I learned from my friend that I just mentioned was sick for a long time, I said, oh my gosh, that's a piece. And I realized that now as an adult, I had a lot of options in that situation, but as a 13-year-old, I didn't see those options. I didn't know that they were there. Mm-hmm. Could have handled that differently, but instead I buried the experience. I never worked on it really. And I got some coaching when I was about 40. And out of that coaching, what I learned was in the experience of this kid who, no matter where I sat on the bus, no matter how I tried to ignore him, tried not to engage with them or anything, he always found me and he always said something harsh.
Mm-hmm.
Created out of that experience was, no matter what I do, nothing will change. Serious, deep ego that was a survival mechanism at the time, almost like, hey, don't risk it because it's not going to work out. So I entered every relationship and pretty much every job with one foot out the door. Like, hey, it's not going to work out anyway. So imagine my experience of romance in my 20s. It was not great. And so here's this experience of being bullied from 8th grade, age 13. And I really started discovering it after my son was born. My son was born when I was 40. And I was like, wow, I have to face some things because without children, I have a lot more say about who I interact with and who I don't. But when I have kids, there's kids that my kid needs to be around kids and play with other kids. And that means there's other parents. You really look like, wait, why am I so hesitant to go out to this event?
Yeah.
I said, oh gosh, this is old. And that's when I got that coaching and I discovered that no matter what I do, nothing will change. And I was like, oh my gosh, that explains pretty much my whole life.
So you worked with that belief and were able to kind of peel that away.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes seeing, that's illumination, right? That's bringing light to something that was in the dark. Mm-hmm. Seeing is enough sometimes to have something be released and done with it, or to integrate it, you could say. Kind of depends on which way you look at it. And there was still more to do, and I knew that. And so when this cancer formed in my upper abdomen, that chakra is the personal power chakra. So literally the day I'm in the hospital, I was like, personal power chakra, okay. All right, I know.
What does that mean to you?
I knew that I had to do some mental, emotional work and some spiritual work. And so I think that the bullying incident is part of it. But what made me a target for bullying, and why didn't I stand up for myself? And so there's layers to that even. It's not just that one experience. Mm-hmm. And it's all I brought forth with that into my life, which is no matter what I do, nothing will change. I am someone who is a target of a bully. People pick on me. I'm not good enough, right? All of that.
Right.
When I was diagnosed, I knew I had to look at my personal power. And when I worked with my friend who was doing the spiritual work, some really interesting things came up, but it's hard to explain how she does her work, but I can explain the results much better. One of the things that I got that was really beautiful, and this is after multiple sessions, is that prior to cancer, I looked at my body and I've evaluated my body more on how it looked than what it could do. And I don't mean what it could do, like jumping hurdles or climbing trees. I mean that it functions the way it's supposed to function. Yeah. Because cancer is definitely a dysfunction. And it was there to wake me up that I was not on my path. There's some things to clear out so that I can be on my path. And after working with my friend, one of the things that I discovered is that I have this new appreciation for my body. And I appreciate that, my heart ticks and my lungs expand and my digestion system moves, and that it tells me when something's not working. The body will show you. And my friend taught me to listen to my body in a different way. And I'll give you an example. Just the other day, I was trying to remember what I felt like during chemo and which drug was making me feel a certain way. Was it the prednisone or was it the chemo drugs? Mm-hmm. Something else. And I said, body, show me what prednisone felt like. And then it was like 10 seconds max. And I was like, okay, that's enough. Thank you.
I've experienced that. It's not fun.
And if you ask your body, it will tell you. And that's what I learned from my friend. Her name's Kathy, by the way. Be easier to talk about. She was a big part of my healing. And that's why I'm talking about her so much. And because I really align with the mental, emotional, and spiritual healing aspect. Mm-hmm. So many people go through and do chemo and they go into remission and then the cancer comes back, possibly. And that may happen to me. I don't know, but I'm going to work on every level of me. And I'm going to detox chemo to give myself the best chance. It doesn't mean I'll be cancer-free the rest of my life. I have no idea what the future holds, and I'm okay with that. I probably wouldn't have been okay with that if I hadn't done some of the work that I've done after having cancer and throughout chemo. So I think that there was healing that had to happen in the mind. which is where the ego is, and the ego creates the facade. And then when we go back to that bullying incident, there were things that I created about who I am. I'm unacceptable to my peers. And I wouldn't have recognized that, except that my friend Kathy taught me how to be with my emotions rather than suppress them. We might say, oh, I just push my emotions away. But really, if you say you're pushing your emotions away, you're suppressing them into you. And and that storage is disruptive to the spirit. And the spirit is what circulates everything at the most subtle level. And so when we obstruct the spirit by doing that, eventually the circulation issue, the movement of light through your body, will develop into a physical thing. And that's what I think illness is. That's how I view it. And that's how I viewed it back then. It's just clearer now after this experience.
Yeah.
So what do I think caused it? Physically, I was run down. And run down, we can't circulate the same. We don't have the energy to do that. We call that qi deficiency or blood deficiency in Chinese medicine. It's hypofunction. And in that scenario, toxic things can build up. And a cancer cell is a malfunctioning cell, to say it simply. There's other views about that that I'm not going to go into, because that's like something else, and that's not something I'm here to teach or share or anything. But the cell has learned to survive by changing its fuel source. I'll just say it that way. And now it lives in a low oxygen or no oxygen environment. That's what a cell is doing. And so oxygen is a healing component. It doesn't mean you need an oxygen mask. Just breathe more.
Right.
Part of your process, whether you get chemo or you do natural things or whatever way you choose to do it, do deep breathing and move your body, because you need to help the physical body circulate. Do the mental and emotional and spiritual work so that your soul can come through fully and help that healing process. Yeah. There were several meditations that I did with Kathy where it was like I pulled off a breastplate, which is so weird, right? I would never know I was wearing this protective layer.
Like an imaginary.
Yeah.
Visualizing, pulling it off. Okay.
Right. And I noticed it as I was driving from home to go out to my clinic. And I think I was making herbs for a few people before I sort of closed down. I had some patients that I really resonated with, and I wanted to provide them one more dose or one more bottle of herbs so that they could have a little time to do what they needed. I was driving and I thought, I'm wearing a breastplate. And I was like, what in the world is happening right now? This is so weird. And it was silver and gold, very ornate. Like I worked hard on this breastplate to protect my heart from hurt. And I told my friend, I was like, I got this breastplate on. And then in one of the meditations, I'm like, I think I'm supposed to take off the breastplate. She's like, pull it off.
Yeah.
What's there? And I was like, I don't know. I can't see anything. She goes, put light. I was like, okay. So I just flowed light. And then it became this massive, tidal wave of light almost. And I was like, wow, okay, I did it. And that came at a time of, I was getting get well messages from everywhere in my life, like so many people. And it could come off because I recognized I am lovable. I am loved. And it wasn't like this highly emotional thing. It was beautiful and it felt really good. And I was like, I haven't been letting that in. That's what the breastplate, it was protecting me from something in the past, but I brought it forth with me, how this protective mechanism, how I showed it to myself really is a breastplate.
Right.
And removing it is signaling that I have moved past that hurt and can now give and receive love at a different level, a higher level. And that's what I got out of that. And that was a beautiful thing. So that was, an example of the mental, emotional, and spiritual healing through my process, which I'm still doing. I think that never ends. We just can always be, bringing light into our existence. I also saw an acupuncturist in Sarasota. He came highly recommended, 16 years of experience with cancer. And he was very forthcoming in his willingness to teach me about cancer and how to treat myself and what to expect. And he gave me that I did not get from Western medicine is he never once wavered in his belief in my ability to heal. Like he knew that I would get better. And that made me know as a human, like on the soul level, on a deep level, I knew that I was going to be okay. But my times would be like, what if the chemo's not working? What if the PET scan was wrong?
Right.
What if it manifests somewhere else? What if the chemo only works on this and I'm manifesting some other cancer? Like a lot of concerns come up with the mind.
Mm-hmm.
Doctor, he helped me to be able to just trust the process
Mm-hmm.
on the physical level. And I told him that. I said, you've been like a lighthouse in this storm. And the one thing I can say unquestionably I got from you is that you never once questioned whether or not I would heal. And he's very flat affect, like he's friendly, but he was just kind of like, we can always get the engine running. How long it's going to run? I don't know, but we can get the engine running. And I was like, that's a great analogy.
I love it. I haven't heard that one.
Once you're done fighting, he said, while you're in chemo, you're fighting. When that's done, you change to a different form. It's more affordable. Mm-hmm. He goes, but you got to take the liquid version first because that's what's going to get in your body the way you need it to. And then he said, after the fight, we go to detoxing chemo. And I think that's one of the missing things for most people is they don't detox the chemo. And I think it's, yeah.
I know that you keep mentioning about light, and I was looking at your YouTube channel today where you share a lot of your journey going through all this. And I believe, what is it? Is it Tara's Journey, Letting in the Light? Is that? Mm-hmm. Yeah, which is a beautiful name. So, what inspired you to share all this through, videos on YouTube for everyone to see?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that God or my angels were like, "You need to do this," because I didn't think, oh, I should do this. This will be good for somebody. I was in the hospital. I kept feeling this urge to record something. Mm-hmm. And, everybody's got a camera on their phone, so there was no escaping it. I didn't have to order anything. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
I'm in a hospital gown. I don't know that I want to do that, but it just was there. And I was like, okay, well, here's the thing. I'll record something and then I'll just see if it's still there after I get out of the hospital. Mm-hmm. And I recorded 3 videos while I was there. And then when I came home, I was like telling my wife, I felt this urge to record some videos. So I did. I'm just going to go see what I'd recorded because I don't know.
Yeah.
And I think I had deleted them from my phone, but my phone's connected to an online storage thing. And so I went to look and they weren't there. And I was like, oh, I'm off the hook. And then I don't know, I found them like on accident. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess I'm supposed
not off the hook.
And so then I decided I would just record it. And I said, eventually I'll know what this is for. I'm sure that there's people with cancer who this will benefit. And I'm sure there's people with illness that this will benefit. But what I found that several of my students, now that I'm back to teaching, mm-hmm. have watched your videos. Thank you. And I had people email me and they were like, I really was so upset about this and shocked. And I don't want to make this about me, but I did go watch your video and I just should have known that you would turn it into a teaching opportunity. And she said,
that was so me. I was like, I don't want to make this about me, but I went through this whole journey because I didn't know you were going through this at all. And then when I did find out, I just went through, and you'd already come to almost complete recovery at that point. So to watch the journey over, an hour or two of finding out okay, she's all right. It was so emotional. And I had to reach out and tell you just how much you mean to me.
Yeah, that makes a difference.
And again, it's like, it's not about me, but it just, when you always think people will be here in the world and you take it for granted, and it's so easy to do. And you just want to show the person, like, you really appreciate, like, you have made such a difference in my life, just the teachings and the way that you show up, the way that you see the world and how you share it with people. So wow. I'm so grateful that you created that channel and that you are sharing all of the things you're sharing.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Yeah. When I got several emails similar to yours. Yeah. And I really needed to hear it. It was part of why I could take that breastplate off. And when I got some of those, the breastplate had already been removed and it came in as such a loving energy and feeling. And I wouldn't have been able to receive that before. Mm-hmm. Appreciate cancer for waking me up to that. Was it scary? Yeah, it was pretty scary a few times. But for the most part, I knew deep down I was going to be okay, even in the hospital. But I was also in emotional shock in the hospital. So once I came out, I had to evaluate, like, am I still in shock or am I okay with this? And what I realized is I accepted cancer, like right off the bat. I accept it. There's cancer in my body. Mm-hmm. Did not accept chemo right away, but I didn't resist it either. It was just like that first week was such a whirlwind. I mean, it was just like day one, biopsy, day two, wait for biopsy. My doctor came in or called me. I can't remember. I think he called me. And one of the things he said, the oncologist said, is there anybody in your family you'd like me to call for you? And I was like, I really did get the best medical team. Thank you. Like to my age, God, I'm unbelievable. Wednesday, I got my port placed in the morning, and then I had to go in the afternoon to have a bone biopsy for staging. So I had to lay face down with this new incision and this thing in my chest. And Thursday, they transferred me to a different hospital so that on Friday I could get chemo. And it took all day to get the chemo drugs mixed up and everything. And I'm glad. I would rather them take their time than rush, because as one of my nurses in the chemo clinic would tell people when they were getting snippy with her, we're not playing with Kool-Aid. And I was like, you're right, girl. We are not playing with Kool-Aid. Chemo can kill people. Wrong chemo almost definitely will. Harsh. It is definitely a harsh treatment. And so it was like that whirlwind, and then boom, nurses coming in to give me, treatment. Yeah. And they had to gown up in the hospital, which was a little scary. I mean, they had to have like a full suit thing on to put the chemo, just to hook up the thing.
Wow.
I'm just not going to feel any certain way about this. I'm just going to let it be.
Yeah.
That's what is happening. They've done this a lot. They have a whole floor for cancer. So obviously they have experience. I'm just going to let it be. And it was scary. And my body did great. My body handled 6 rounds of chemo. A 7th round, I don't know how that would have gone, because the 6th one was really hard. Yeah. Relative,
And how are you feeling now?
I feel pretty good. I still have a way to go to get my energy back. I still have some hot flashes. And chemo, my acupuncturist, the acupuncture doctor that I saw, he said, if you don't get the chemo out, it stagnates. So I'm thinking that maybe it stagnates at the cellular level, or the body pushes it away from organs and will store it in other areas where that's what the body does with toxins, by the way. It'll store things away from organs. There's parts of the brain that it will store things in. It stores things in joints, breast tissue, all kinds of places. So it's not in the organs. The body is really programmed to survive. And that's a very interesting piece. But something like chemo, I don't know if the body stores it in the way that I've learned or some other way. But if it sits there, the stagnation turns into heat, and then your body will try to sweat things out. So that's what my body started doing very heavily after the 6th round. And I went to my acupuncturist and I said, I've been sweating a lot. He's like, your body's trying to sweat it out. And he said this with a patient that I had who was exposed to Agent Orange. He said he would have to change his shirt 2 or 3 times a day. Once we started detoxing him, he'd change his shirt once a day, and then he didn't have to change his shirt at all. And he said, so you got to detox the chemo, and we'll start that now. And we did. We started doing that. And he taught me how to do it. And it just got expensive for me to go over there. And so I said, I'm just going to do some stuff here. We were doing an ionic foot bath. And my dad was like, I have a foot bath. I was like, you do? It's like, yeah, give me the foot bath. And so I can do that at home. Somebody else told me where I can order the same herbs. And so I was able to order the herbs, and I just let my acupuncturist know, I acknowledged him and said, thank you. And I really can't afford to come over there anymore, because his price, but the drive over cost me like $50. Yeah. So every went, the total just to see him without herbs was over $100 when you add the drive time and the gas and the tolls and stuff. And he's still available. I've reached out to him a couple of times. I reached out to him recently, and I was just like, I'm still having hot flashes. I want to know what you think I should do. And he said, well, you are at an age where you have to consider, are you going into menopause, or is this chemo? And I explained to him, and I said, I think it's chemo. Yes, I know I'm close to menopause, but I don't think I'm there yet. One of the things that's tricky is chemo affects reproductive cells. So in women, the period stops. My last period was when I was in the hospital the first time. Period since. And in Chinese medicine, we would say that's blood, and the blood to be rebuilt. And so chemo destroys blood cells. And the chemo that I had, because I had lymphoma, which is lymphatics, which is your white blood cells in particular. And so my doctor said, I think you have to start moving things now. You might be able to start strengthening or tonifying. That's what we call it, tonifying. And I started tonifying and I started using some herbs to help with circulation. But when I took the tonifying herbs, it exacerbated a couple of symptoms. And I said, I'm not ready to tonify. We need to move stuff first. And so that's what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
And just have reduced. I haven't really had that many. And then yesterday and today I had a few. And so I can see that it's waning slowly. And I'll admit I'm at a point of frustration, even though I mentally came into this year like this is a year for healing. I'm just going to let this year be about healing. I was walking up the steps yesterday to my classroom and I was like, man, I really just want to be done with this. And then I said, and this year is about healing. And I said, okay. And I just let it be.
Yeah.
My body so much already.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, that whole journey, I'm so happy you are where you are. And it sounds like it's going to get even better and you're going to heal even more. And you're just very in tune with everything that you need to do and reaching out to others to be able to learn from them and how they can help you as well. I love all that. If there was anything that you wanted to say, like kind of your message to people maybe going through cancer or maybe just going through a hard time in life, is there anything that you would kind of say?
There's probably a lot of things I would say.
That's why she has her own channel. We'll put the link in the description to that.
Well, I think for me, one of the things that made this easier than it would have been if I wasn't, where I am emotionally, mentally, spiritually, is I could have really suffered through this. And I didn't suffer. And it wasn't me burying anything. I just saw it. I got it. When I was in the hospital, I had just completed a class with 4 other women, that spiritual class. And it felt like I wanted to share with them what was going on. And we had a group text that we had created. And I just said, I just want to let y'all know, I just got diagnosed with lymphoma. I don't know yet, but I just wanted to let you know I'm doing okay. And I really appreciate everything I got out of the class that we just did. And they all texted me and said wonderful things. And one of them sent me a care package. And one of them said in text, she texted me separately and she said, this is your path. And I was like, I know that somewhere inside, but I needed to just bring that to the front of my mind. There is no other experience I'm supposed to be having. This is it. If you
gives me chills.
you're dealing with an illness, it's not that you shouldn't have the illness. It's there. Let it be something to teach you. Because for me, the things I got out of cancer are still showing up. In a good way, you'd say? If I hadn't had cancer. I even remember sitting on the couch, bald. I look over at my wife and said, it had to be cancer. I couldn't just break my leg, right? And she goes, it wasn't going to wake you up otherwise. And I told my friend that. She goes, let me tell you about breaking your leg. I did break my leg before I got sick, and I didn't change a damn thing. And then she got really sick, and it really woke her up,
Gosh, I feel like that is like, for me, that's such an impactful thing you just said. Like it had to be that. It wouldn't have woken you up otherwise.
Yeah.
That's intense. That's amazing. Like, this is what happens when you speak, like these epiphanies happen, these meaningful insights that you have. And this is why I wanted to be able to talk to you and share your message. And I would love for you to be able to tell people where else, they can find you to be able to find more of your insights. So I know you have a website and a channel.
Yeah. So I have a YouTube channel about my cancer journey, and I still make videos probably about monthly at this point, called Tara's Journey, TARA''S, letting in the light. And I think there's probably like 20 videos right now around there. I was surprised that there were so many when I went back to look, and I said, wow, I made more videos than I realized. Yeah. And most of it happened in the first 2 rounds of chemo, because my 3rd round of chemo was changed and it was much harsher. And I just really did not feel good after that. So I thought, wow, look at that. My output of videos really declined after that. The output of declined, honestly. And then I have a website. It's soulawakeningcenter.com. And through this process, I took off all of my services, and I left it like in my mind. I was like, I'm just leaving a blank slate, because I know that something's changing. I'm not going to go back to what I was doing, not the same way anyway, going forward. I knew that something else was coming. And it's been revealing itself over these last couple of months, and it's getting clearer. But also you can see what my wife does. We are right on par with each other. She is a psychic medium and a life coach, and her sessions are like kind of all of that. Most people want all three things.
Mm-hmm.
And so she doesn't just tell people like, hey, I'm getting this. She gives people like practical advice and things that they can go do to improve their lives. And she does it with me too, which is nice.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of support each other in that. So we use our one website for all of that. And next week, I'll be putting some of my services up. And so you're welcome to come by and visit and see if there's anything there for you.
Wonderful. I think with that, it's a lot of times it's the energy that's what you want to connect with. You know, if you're going to someone for maybe life coaching, or if it's acupuncture, massage, a lot of times it's connecting with that person, with their energy, almost regardless of what the specific service is. So
yeah, I agree with that.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much for coming on, sharing your story and sharing so much with us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Have a great rest of your weekend, okay?
You.